What's up guys, Maro here, back with another video. This one is a very interesting one. It's a follow-up to one of the videos which I made, which was Strive Masiwa's top 10 companies in Zimbabwe. There was a comment there which was really interesting, and someone asked, so how do you actually become a shareholder on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange or on any company that's listed in Zimbabwe really? How do you become an Econet shareholder, for example? And I decided to make this video so that I would share with you guys, how you become a shareholder in Zimbabwe, or rather, as I would like to title this video, how the rich in Zimbabwe are managing to hide and hedge their wealth while everyone else is suffering from the hyperinflation that has been going on in the economy. And so the market really, the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, has 63 counters listed on it. That is 63 different companies. Most of the companies might be something that you know from everyday life if you're a Zimbabwean, like Old Mutual, Delta, Econet. But really, of those 63, there are 58 that are currently active. Some of them have been suspended, and you can always go and check on that on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange website. But really, I'm going to divide this video into two sides: why the equities and how do you actually do it. And so starting with why you might need to invest your money on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. I think when I was starting the video, I talked about inflation, right? There is massive inflation that's happening in the economy. If you want to keep your money, you can keep it in your bank. If you keep it in your bank account, then the inflation will just come and you lose all your money. It becomes worthless. 2008, I was in 7th grade, but I still remember that some of my money was kind of worthless after a short period of time. And so that's when I really started reading about all these things and trying to figure out how other people might be storing their wealth. And so why you would want to keep your money: number one, it is liquid to be buying equities on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. What I mean by this is that if you actually buy shares on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange and you want to sell them at some point, it's a market that's very easy, where you can tell your broker to say, look, can you sell those 100 shares of Econet if you bought them for $2 and maybe they've risen with inflation, now they're at $6 and you want to use the money? You just sell them, you get your money in your bank account and you use it. So that's the very important thing, that it's a very liquid market. You always find buyers for your shares if you want to dispose them. And also, if you get money and you want to accumulate more shares, you will always find sellers. The market is pretty liquid, especially for the companies that are blue chip like Econet or Delta. Number two, there's something to do with growth. As I was saying, the market actually does grow, one, with inflation, and it also grows as the companies themselves grow. And so you look at something like Econet, when it was listed back then, it was almost a couple of $1 million worth is the whole company. But now it has grown. It's a $3 billion company. And so when you look at it, Econet grew and its market capitalization grew. At the same time, Econet grew and it actually spun off another company, which is Cassava Zimbabwe Limited. And Cassava is now the holding company that holds Stewart Bank, and it holds the EcoCash platform and other fintech businesses within the formerly Econet group. So if you look at this, if you started off as a shareholder of just Econet, right now you will be owning both Econet and Cassava Zimbabwe Limited, which would actually mean that your money is growing. And number three is an inflation hedge, which is something I've said before. As your money stays on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, the prices of the companies, they do adjust with inflation. And so because of that, you're actually hedging against inflation, and you don't have to worry to say, how is my money doing? Like, am I losing my money? At the point that you need to sell it, it's most likely, definitely not guaranteed, but it's most likely that the value of your shares would have gone up with the market. Number five, it's actually a favorite among Zimbabwe's asset managers. So there are these reports, there are these people who are called asset managers. What they do really is that they look for rich people who have excess money to just keep, and they tell them, look, give me your money, I'll invest it for you, and I'll give it to you. It'll be growing at 10% or 12% every year. They devote their life trying to figure out what's the best thing within the economy to invest in. If you read these reports, among the asset managers in Zimbabwe, they usually alternate between the money market and the equities, which is the shares. And so if you read most of these reports that are coming out, that have been coming out last year and those that have come out early this year, you see that asset managers, their favorite asset class as of the moment is equities. They really feel like that's the way to go. And definitely, if you're not someone who is what I would call an enterprising investor, if you don't really read these things, you might want to find a class that's relatively safe for Zimbabwe. And if you compare the money markets, they have not really been doing well. And so probably equities are the way to go. The last thing being that it's a very, very long-term play. You can look at this comparing maybe equities versus debt. When you have debt, or when you buy maybe, bonds that have been issued by Econet or bonds that have been issued by the government of Zimbabwe, they get to mature at some point and you get to get your money at some point. But the thing with equities is that over the longest of terms, Delta, Econet, Old Mutual, these companies will be there for hundreds of years to come. You will die. You will leave your shares to your descendants. Your descendants will keep getting the dividends from these shares until they decide to sell them. This is a very long-term play, and so when you look at it, you should consider that the reason you would want to be in equities is because it's a very, very, very long-term play. Now, done with why the equities, we're moving on to how do you actually do it. And so I think my first point, which is very important, is if you're starting out in this business, or if you're starting out in this way of life, as I like to call it, diversify. That's the first thing you need to do. You need to diversify. You need to make sure that you buy as many companies with different sizes and different sort of economic sectors as possible. If you're buying Econet, it's a telecoms company, then maybe the next time you buy, or if you have more money, you might want to buy maybe OK Zimbabwe, which is a retailer. If telecoms are going to be hit, if Econet, Tel1 and Net1 are not going to have that money that year, then maybe your other sort of equities that you own in OK Zimbabwe will give you money in the form of dividends. Maybe retailers will do something. And so you want to diversify within the economy. Maybe you want to get one mining company. Maybe you want to get one retail. Maybe you want to get one telecoms company. And maybe you want to get one industrial company that does manufacturing or some sort like that. Maybe you want to get beverages like Delta. Maybe you want to get something that's in tobacco like British American Tobacco, because maybe you think that smokers will never stop smoking, and so maybe British American Tobacco will keep making money. Depending on how you're reasoning it out, either way, you need to diversify. That's the first important thing. Number two, you need to look at companies that actually have a higher chance of getting free cash flow in the future. So if you look at companies like Delta or Econet, which as a disclaimer, I do own both Delta and Econet. And if you look at those companies, Delta and Econet, they are sort of the best performing companies on the stock exchange at the moment. If you look at them, they have already invested so much and they don't need to make major investments in the short to medium term. They have already invested so much money and they can weather out the current economic storm that we actually have in Zimbabwe at the moment. So if you look at those companies, those are probably the companies that you want to have your portfolio having a little bit of overweight on, because they can weather the economic storm. If you buy small cap companies on their own, what might happen is that if the economy continues to be on a very, very terrible pattern, then these small companies might not be able to weather the storm. They might file for bankruptcy or something might happen and you can lose all your money. So you want to have a mixture, and you also want to sort of be overweight in companies that are likely to generate more free cash flow without the need to reinvest. Once you have diversified and once you have decided how your portfolio is going to go on, there is need for you to start. This is something that you have done before you have started the investing on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. There is need for you to start, which comes back to the first question. How do you actually start? So there are three things that you need. You need a stockbroking account, you need a securities depository account, and you need a custodial account. So the stockbroking account is something that you get from any one of the brokers. There are currently 17 brokers to choose from on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. The list is there on the website of the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. I'll give you sort of the details at the end of this video. The stockbroker is the person, or is the entity or the company that does execute the trades for you. And so if you want to buy Econet, for example, well, you call your stockbroker and you tell them that I need Econet. And the stockbroker will call other stockbrokers and figure out someone who in the market is selling Econet, and they will execute the trade for you. That's how it works. After you've had your stockbroking account, you need to open a depository account with a central securities depository company, which in Zimbabwe is called the Chengetedzai Depository Company. And so the reason why you need a depository account is that the shares in Zimbabwe, they are actually traded electronically. There is an electronic register. So when you sell your shares and I buy them, there's just a transaction that's recorded in a ledger. It's not like the old times when there was a big envelope full of paper certificates that I would get and say, now I own Econet, and I keep accumulating them. The whole process has been moved to be electronic. That's why you need to open a depository account. And then after that, you need to open a custodial account with a bank. My custodial bank is CBZ Zimbabwe. Your broker will give you options depending on the custodians they deal with, and then you will figure out what custodial account to open. And so for this whole process, there are actually three things that you just need. You need a copy of your ID if you're in Zimbabwean. If you're not Zimbabwean, if you're a foreigner and you want to invest on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, you would actually need a copy of your passport. And then after that, you need to have your proof of residence. Proof of residence, you just get this, whether water utility bill or any other utility that you have. And then after that, you also need 2 passport size photos that you give to your stockbroker, and they'll run the whole process for you. And this is everything that you actually need to start trading, or as I would like to feel, investing on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. Because if you trade, you might get burnt out. But one thing I believe at this point, after all the readings that I have done and after all my experiences of investing on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, is that if you actually invest, which is having a very, very long-term view, you weather out the storm, you get your money in the end, your money will grow with you, and so you actually make money in the end. And so with this information, you should be able to start investing on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. If you have any question, please, of course, just leave it in the comments below. And as I promise, these are sort of the details that you need if you want to read further. The Zimbabwe Stock Exchange website is zse.co.zw. So that's zse.co.zw. Their Twitter handle is at ZSEZW. And their Facebook and LinkedIn is Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. I'm also going to show this stuff on the screen if I manage to edit this video, where we should be able to see the details on the screen. But thank you so much for watching. And if you have any question, as I said, do leave it in the comments below. And happy investing on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. You shouldn't be losing your money in this economy. If you have even just $100, I would advise you to put it in the stock exchange. This is probably the safest thing that you have within the economy right now, where you can retain your money. And so, happy investing. And as you start investing, you can also leave your investing story in the comments below. Until next time, my name is Maro.